Continuing our conversation now with Reverend Derek McCoy. Reverend McCoy, let me ask you this. You say that Colin Kaepernick and others taking a knee during the playing of the national anthem is wrong. Then are the protesters who protested out in front of the White House in Lafayette Square, were they right? And if they're not right, and if Colin Kaepernick's not right, and if the millions of others who have protested around the nation and across the world, around the world, if they're not right, when is the time and how would you protest what they consider to be a wrong?
Well, quite honestly, I don't think they're not right. I think some of those protests are right on. They should be able to voice their opinion. They should be able to peacefully protest.
So if that's the case, then you disagree with President Trump moving in with National Guard soldiers to clear the protesters from Lafayette Square.
In President Trump's move to clear the protesters at Lafayette Square to walk across the street to be in front of a church, let me just say clearly, I cannot justify and or stand with that particular statement or what he did, and I'm not going to do that. I think when we talk about peaceful protesters coming out in Lafayette Square to make an opinion and to voice their opinion, I'm a native DC guy. I was born in DC. I see it every day of the week. They are there. And so are protesters allowed? Yeah. Have I been out there protesting? Have I been in front of the White House at times protesting? Yes. On the issues that matter to me, no question about it. And so I think it is right to have a voice. And that's the great thing about living in America. Now, I'm not blanketly saying that the protesters in other places are wrong. The protesters around our country are wrong. What I'm saying is if you look at it very clearly, there is a place for a voice. There is a place that we need to protest and make our voices loud. I think there are also settings, like I said before, that we should be wise about how we do it and when we do it. Now, when we've gotten to other places, such as maybe Seattle or Chicago or some places where maybe things have turned violent, and I think that's wrong. And you and I both would agree to say, hey, look,
I want to point something out.
Of here.
I want to point something out because we are the Black News Channel and we do things a little differently here, which is that one of the things that came out over the weekend in Richmond, Virginia, there was violence, but the violence was not perpetrated by the Black Lives Matter protesters, but instead 6 white supremacists who posed as Black Lives Matter protesters and started throwing bricks and rocks and stones and setting things on fire. And out west, 2 officers were killed by people that belong to the Boogaloo movement. We have people now as federal agents without markings, with no identification. I can't tell the difference, and I have covered law enforcement for 40 years, between people that are calling themselves law enforcement and people that belong to either the Michigan militia or the Boogaloo movement. How did this happen?
This is a strategy that's been employed for quite some time. This is one of those things that I've seen over and over again in several different movements where you begin to bust in and bring people in. So it's interesting because in this, while I would stand with you and say, man, that's wrong. That shouldn't be happening. Those infiltrators should not be in there and propagating a message that should not be propagated. I think everybody stands against violence in that regards. Now, what I have seen, when you start doing this in other settings on other issues, and you bring people in and you incite riots and you got the people in there that your job is to just cause a mess, just to create a ruckus. About 3 years ago on the second election, right after the second election, I was in a press conference, just happened to be there, but it was interesting. I was listening to an organization that is well known now, but they were saying, hey, we want to do these kinds of things. And they said verbatim, they said, look here, our job is going to cause civil unrest for the next 3 to 4 years. We cannot allow people to go to sleep because Trump is now elected. So we need to make sure that we cry out in the streets, that we cause civil unrest, and that we do everything in our power to make sure that people stay awake. Now, that was their solution. Now, they did talk about specifically around the point of saying, hey, look, if we got to bring a stir and some riots in some different areas, that's a part of their strategy. I couldn't believe they were saying it out of their own mouth. And where I was listening, I said, you got to be kidding me. But I think when people are using those kinds of strategies at different points and in different rallies, then when we get to rallies like this, it's like, well, we don't want that. well, hold up, we've been using it on other things. Then all of a sudden, you're going to say you don't want it in this one. So you can't pick and choose. We all got to be clean, or we're not going to be clean. We all got to be good in these scenarios, or we're not.
Can I ask a dumb question? And
Sure.
I do that a lot. Why, if you are somebody that wants to sow seeds of deceit and disinformation in the United States, would you wait through 8 years of the Obama administration to let things be peaceful for 8 years, and then when Donald Trump became president, just decide you want to destroy America? Why not destroy it back then?
Well, I think for a lot of people, and hear me, I can't really speak specifically to all of that, but I think for some people that did not necessarily say, hey, look, they weren't a fan of all the things that were done during the Obama administration. I think some people were absolutely challenged when President Trump got elected. And regardless of what we think, he got elected. And I think it's one of those things that people are so upset. If we go backwards just a little bit before, President Obama got elected as a first-term senator, and really out of a chaotic situation because people are so disgusted with George Bush. And so,
yeah, because the economy was going through the crapper. We were basically looking at the Great Depression. The banks were failing, the insurance companies were failing, and people were losing their homes. But on that note, I want to take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk about why didn't they do it then? Stay with us.